Welcome out there to Radio Land. You're talking to the guy who has the face for radio, Mr. Derek Soto of Bloodlines. And this is the first episode of the Bloodcast. This is the podcast for blood. Last time I checked, let me ask Marissa Ann. She's sitting to my left. Is that true?
Yes, I decided that this was going to be called Bloodcast. Play on podcast. So welcome. Sitting around this round table with you fine men. And we're here to introduce our newest team member of Bloodlines, Bo Méndez of Mad Phoenix. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to us. Yay!
Thank y'all for having me. Oh, this is great. I've never been a part of something cool, except Mad Phoenix. Mad Phoenix is very cool. You should listen to Mad Phoenix right now.
You lost that.
Find it. Find us.
We'll add the description below.
No, you guys are doing really well. You guys are
Link in bio.
coming into the metal scene.
We're newbies.
And
we're fledgling. We just hatched. At some point, we're probably going to cut down on the bird puns, but right now they're really working for us.
Well, you know, so every time I see it, yeah, exactly. I was just about to get to that. Every time I'm on Facebook and I see a Mad Phoenix post, it's the caw that gets me all the time. Caw!
Oh, so many things to talk about in this first episode. I mean, we've
had a lot of time to kind of gather some information about what's been going on in the metal scene.
Before we get to that, do we want to tell the nice folks on the other end of this what this podcast is going to be about? Like, for all they know, we're talking about different blood types and their effect on the medical sciences.
Yeah, we're going to resurrect Peter Steele.
Gone too soon. We miss you.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is actually a new thing for Bloodlines. This is going to be, this is Bloodcast, obviously. It's a play on podcast. This is going to be our, official podcast where we're going to be discussing the shit that goes on in the heavy metal world, hard rock, heavy metal, death metal.
So much shit there is.
So many genres, so little time.
So many genres. and
and so much unnecessary drama because the whole summer has just been madness and all the things that people want to hear about, like Tool and what Corey Taylor has to say. And my favorite, who randomly came out of nowhere, was it Tommy Lee? All of a sudden now he's like an advocate.
Tommy Lee, member of the hashtag Resistance.
Yeah, I know.
Even though he's also like known for being domestically abusive, but whatever.
As I go back to my original statement, summer of 2019 has been a clusterfuck.
It's been interesting.
But we're talking about clusterfucks and comebacks. Comebacks, right? Last time I checked.
Oh, we are talking about comebacks.
Are we still talking about Tommy Lee?
Well, we just passed him by because it's not important. Because he'll just end up on Blabbermouth tomorrow afternoon or something.
Well, how did he pop up back into?
Because he doesn't like Trump. That's why.
I don't think a lot of us do.
Honestly, I can get behind.
And there go our views.
Yeah. Whatever.
Tommy Lee for president.
Oh my God. Okay.
That was easy.
Right.
Comebacks. Topic number 1. We're going right back into time with this one because As I Lay Dying has returned. Good Lord.
Yeah.
So who's gonna field this one first? Because I'm walking away for a little bit.
Actually, I don't know. I mean, I think we've had a discussion about As I Lay Dying before, and I kind of only, and sadly, I've only just started listening to him about like a year ago, just because I've been talking with Derek about this a lot, and I was like, I've heard of As I Lay Dying. I just I never really fell on my ears like that, but. You guys have had a lot to say. We've had a lot of discussion about this new album and the return of Tim Lambesis.
I'll throw down if y'all don't mind. I have feelings, and I'm just gonna be kind of like talking out loud. I'm gonna preface by saying I'm not entirely sure how I feel like a condensed down to a single statement as far as this band's recent activity goes. I've got a lot of feelings, but I don't know exactly like how I feel when it comes to it. So I grew up. I came into listening to metal in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Like before that, I was all about just kind of like, radio rock and oldies and that sort of stuff. And then I got that banger Linkin Park album, Hybrid Theory. Anybody our age who tells you they didn't love Hybrid Theory is a fucking liar. And I will go on record saying that. And from there, it just got more and more into heavier stuff. So by the time As I Lay Dying is at their, the peak of their power in 2003, 2004, 2005, they were one of my favorite bands. They kind of summed up all the best of that nasty four-letter word metalcore, but they brought it. They brought the metal, they brought the core, and they wrote incredible songs. And they were catchy. They had a certain degree of brutality. Like, sure, they're not fucking tech death or something like that, but for people who aren't into that level, they provided us with that kind of aggressive sound. And moreover, they had something to say. Like, yeah, they came out of kind of like this Christian metalcore scene, but they kind of
Christian.
Well, all the band members at one point or another, that's a whole nother can of worms now.
True.
At one point or another, were pretty vocal about their Christian faith. They hated being called a Christian metal band.
Take that for today.
Well, I mean, that's also similar to Doug Pinnick. King's X. Okay,
yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys. So yeah, I mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, like to solve the puzzle.
That's actually a great example.
Because King's X was considered a Christian metal band until
because Doug is Christian. Like it doesn't kind of matter like what the actual lyrical content is or who they're playing with. Like if you have outspoken members of a band of whatever religion, they just get like kind of labeled as insert religion here. Band. Yeah, same thing with like if you have a female front person, they're just like, oh right, female fronted rock band, blah 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 blah. And it's like
you're an actual genre now because you have a.
Well, honestly, a lot of people are having a problem with that. I mean, especially women too, because I mean, that's why is it female fronted? Why is it? Because it's kind of like, female fronted. Why can't we just be vocalists? Why can't be,
It's not necessarily a good thing, but I think that's why As It Lay Dying kind of resisted the Christian metalcore label, is because they didn't want to be pigeonholed as just like, their faith is like a marketing gimmick or a way to categorize them in a record shop. But anyway, I really loved them, during this time of the early aughts because they had something to say. They had a message about positivity, kind of like inner strength, being like accountable in a lot of ways.
But they weren't so sensitive about it. I mean, that was the best part about As I Lay Dying. A lot of the records that they put out were just so hard-hitting, and they were realistic.
Yeah.
They were ideally realistic to the point where they felt the aggravation and frustration from their fans. Mm-hmm. And they just put all that. They never were so, like, soft. Mm-hmm. It was always, balls to the wall. We're going to just put this right in your face, and you're going to eat it up. And that was it every single time. Every record that they ever had come out was stellar.
Yeah, and the musicianship was on point, too. Like, especially when, An Ocean Between Us came out. Like, those are some of the best performances by every member of that band. And they had just solidified what's now become kind of like a definitive lineup.
Yeah, and that was the fusion that they all had, that bands back in, 2011, or even when they first started, that was not seen before. Yeah, like, you had
these shifting lineups and these kind of like nebulous ideas of what their sound was. And at least for me, when Ocean Between Us came out, that's 2007, 2008, that was like, this is the band. That was like, they had kind of like solidified themselves. And, again, like going from the strength of musicianship to the power of the message that you could find in the music.
Don't forget Josh Gilbert's very, very, like, amazing voice.
Yeah, they had,
just to cap that off.
They had the heaviness. Jordan Mancino's doing blast beats, like kind of like introductions to blast beats.
It still has the same damn beard too.
God, it's not even a beard. It's a mustache.
yeah.
He shaves the chin.
He is the Yosemite Sam of metalcore. Like seriously, it's amazing.
And so I really latched onto it, and I remember being like super stoked. This is, I think it's 2012. It had to be 2012 because Killswitch Engage was going on
tour with As I Lay Dying.
Right, for the Alive or Just Breathing 10th anniversary, a reunited Killswitch Engage with Jesse Leach back and As I Lay Dying. And I was like a kid in a candy store buying my ticket for that. And then something happened.
He hired Agent 47.
Yeah, who was actually Cop 47.
Cop 47.
To have his ex-wife killed. And now, my dad is a family law lawyer. And when divorces happen, things can get ugly. But that was such a level of ugly that for me, this is why I got shit to say, it was a betrayal. everything that band had talked about standing for. And of course, this is Tim writing the lyrics. I'm assuming, at least. I wasn't in the room. But all these messages, these positive attitudes that were coming through in the lyrics, just totally undercut by, I can't get along with my ex-wife, so I think I'm going to have her offed. So that, for me, was just a complete about-face. I occasionally still listen to their older music just because it did something for me, but it immediately had this bad taste in your mouth, like watching a Woody Allen.
And I think that's where a lot of people are conflicted too, because I think we had spoken about has the community actually forgiven Tim Lambesis for this whole situation? And with this new album that's coming out, and I mean, we've heard. We've seen some updates on, like from Tim himself on social media and how apologetic he is about, what happened.
Tim was very remorseful, as anybody should be who's in the limelight when it comes to being incarcerated. That's going to happen, and people believe it and others don't, but that's always been this problem with being in the limelight as a musician or even a celebrity. Your life is out there.
Yeah.
And as much as a success he has been with the band, as soon as all this stuff came to light, it was see ya. That was it. The band was completely ruined.
Not true. Actually, not true though, because there are a lot of fans that still stand by him, and they're just like, yeah, shit happens, and it was really fucked up, but he still makes great music, and he's still a great musician. And you know what? I've seen a lot of these comments, and I'm just like, and I look at them and I'm like, really, man, really, like, are you guys really saying this? But you're listening to the music earlier today, listening to it, and I'm just like, damn, this is really freaking catchy. This is a great song. The lyrics are great, but then it's that's where where I get conflicted, because I'm like, wow, is he really? Is he like he's apologized? But if I ever saw this man on stage, it'd be, I mean, that whole situation would take away from me as a woman, just looking at him on stage, and I feel like that would take away, the show for me.
Yeah, like the fact that his sentence was reduced by being, from my understanding, a model prisoner, behavior. So good for him. But the fact that his sentence was reduced, and there are Black and brown kids that are still serving time for like having some weed or something like that, says something weird about the power dynamic. The fact that he's trying to mount this comeback despite having done something that was essentially the Charlie Manson version of spousal abuse. Sure, nobody got killed, nobody got hurt, but he was trying.
Yeah, he was
trying to make it happen. And that also says volumes. On the other side of things, like you're talking about the fan response and how he's a good musician, so we should give him another chance. Like, it also brought out the worst in metal fans, because you had people on comments being like, "Well, she probably did something to deserve it."
Well, yeah,
they actually went on record and were blaming her for the situation, and it's
and I think it's really messed up, because you know what? Even as much as much as fans try to follow these musicians and what's going on in their life, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't know what happens behind closed doors. From what I know, all I can say is, wow, man, that's really messed up. I can only imagine how that woman must have felt and how she's still feeling, with him, still being successful as a musician, and just her just kind of sitting there like, just kind of shrugging it off and throwing her hands up like, I guess I have to just deal with it.
Yeah. And it's BS, because, at the same time you do have half of the fan base that's still rooting for this band to reunite, as they did already, and have put singles out as they have done already, and have a new record coming out with a new record label already, which is hysterical, because if you look at it, again, this is where the line draws. You have their old record label, Metal Blade Records, they said, no, we're not bringing them back, this is done, and the band was, of course, upset and disappointed, as the band should be, because they lost out on their ability to live their livelihood because of their singer. Mm-hmm. Now they went on to create Woven War, and it wasn't as popular.
Yeah, they had some good. They put the effort in.
Yeah, they put the E for effort. That's cool and good gravy, but it just didn't have that. It didn't have that as a dying feel, and I think that's a lot of the fans who listen to that type of metalcore wanted that in this band. But when they immediately found out who the singer was, it was, of course, a different direction.
Right.
So it's like, listen, at least these 4 guys are going out and they're doing tours, and they're making their livelihood because of this speed bump that occurred in their careers.
And it's, I mean, we say a speed bump, and it's really, fortunate for Tim Lambesis to actually come back from a situation
He's
like
a
that.
lucky man.
It's very lucky, because it doesn't ever happen where a musician does something as, this is not just like a mistake. I mean, this is murder. It's probably like the worst things that you could ever do to somebody that actually cares about you, and to come back and actually be given another chance by a major record label.
The fact
it's a really good.
And now this is the thing. Like, this is again, this is going back to like what I was saying. When you have people that don't forgive him and side with the record label, his previous record label, Metal Blade, they're on that side, and now you have the fans that want him back, and you have the Nuclear Blast that were like, hey, you know what? Come on in. We'll bring you guys in so you can restart your career. Where do people side with that? And that's always the tough part.
I don't think you side with anything, because there are still a lot of great bands on Metal Blade that people
and
love.
And there are great bands on Nuclear Blast, of course.
I don't think there's any siding. I just think that it's kind of like what was Metal Blade thinking when they actually gave that chance to
it's
As
a
I Lay
moral
Dying
versus financial standpoint, at least to me, because I mean, come on, if I found out one of like my top bands, the lead singer was being arrested for hiring a hitman to kill his wife, then you gotta go. That's it. I mean, it's the circumstances are all different.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings us to today, where like Tim's released a number of statements talking about like his mental health at the time. He was roiding out pretty hard, and he says, I don't know how the brain chemistry of that works, but he says that his decision making was heavily impaired. And you know what? I can kind of, obviously it was impaired. I can kind of believe that reasoning. And he's talking about how like he wants to go to school to be a social worker and help people like him who are, coping with these things in unhealthy ways. And that's all well and good. As for me, I am kind of watching this because I feel like if this band could mean for its fans, especially fans who are dealing with, one thing or another, if they could mean for those fans what they used to, that would honestly be great. But I think that it would require a lot of action. An apology isn't enough. Stating your good intentions isn't enough.
And it's a lot harder when you're in the public eye, because we're talking about inmates that come out of jail all the time that have done similar crimes, that have committed similar crimes,
what makes you so special?
Yeah. No, it's not what makes you so special, but I mean, because he's in the public eye, it's a lot harder for him.
He's got to do something. Like he's got to show him doing this social work. He's got to donate some of his money to like a shelter or something like that for women escaping domestic violence or something like that. Yeah, he's really got to step up to the plate and show that he's done the introspection. I want to believe in a rehabilitative justice. I want to believe that people can have second chances, but they got to do something. Especially when you're someone like this who's in the public eye and has power like this, you got to do something with your rehabilitation.
But I also feel like too that and like I'm saying, like someone who's in the public eye, and you have the media that just says, "Oh, well, this is what it is," and thousands of people are reading, "Oh, well, he's apologized," and then that's it. It's over. And so that's, you have like this one article that's saying, well, hey guys, look, he apologized, he's remorseful, and then everybody just kind of just goes away and forgets about it. And
it always fades away.
It always fades away. Everybody is just, and that's any kind of media. You hear one thing and then it just goes away.
And I just think now's not the time for that sort of stuff. We had the Me Too movement, we've got the Time's Up movement, we got all these people who have platforms for influence being exposed as abusive or manipulative or dangerous in one way or another. And if they really want to rehab themselves, not just to, I'm sure they want to save their fucking careers and keep on getting paychecks, but if they really want to actually learn from this, then I want to see from someone like Tim, I want to see those steps being taken.
But actually on the opposite side for the fans too, how much do you need for forgiveness? And that's always the level that comes from every individual.
That is the big question.
You can pull off everything that you just said, Bo. He can do all of it. He can put in documents. He can put in pictures. He can make a documentary out of the damn thing.
Yeah.
But people are always gonna remember it, and they're gonna try to put this pedestal where, hey, how much have you done for me to forgive you?
Yeah. And that is a tricky thing. Like, it's never gonna be like it was before. There's going to be fans that drop off, and there's going to be people that are no longer, involved in this, just because that's what happens when something like this happens.
I mean, and I really feel like, the music industry sometimes will take advantage of the fact that they're like, yeah, we'll lose a few fans, but we're still going to be good because, people are still going to love us no matter what we do.
Yeah.
I
mean, from there, it's just kind of a matter of how things play out. Like, I'm thinking of like a somewhat similar case is the drummer Faust, who drummed with Emperor and a whole bunch of other like black metal bands. He's actually a convicted murderer. Like, if you look
just
him
like
up,
Varg.
Yeah, except where Varg managed to tank his own career by being an insufferable douche nozzle. Varg, if you're listening, I will fight you.
Oh, they crucified him in that movie.
Yeah, white supremacist ass.
Oh, they made him look like shit.
But Faust's career has continued, because he has expressed a number of different things after the fact, and he served his time and played everything out, and he continues to drum and tour. I'm sure there are people who have reservations about seeing a band with Faust in it, but something about his situation has allowed him to continue. So all I'm saying is, like, if As I Lay Dying makes a comeback and all these pieces fall into place, and it seems to be like they're again that kind of like force for good for metalcore or something like that, super great. I will continue to watch these single releases come out and album announcements and all that good stuff with just like...
Well, the album's coming out September 20th.
Yeah, so it's going to be out soon. I'm just like, I'm really waiting to see like, okay, all right, cool. Welcome back-ish, but what's the next step? What are you going to do for us?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how your sound has changed, if anything, and how you have evolved as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the rest of the band... those guys have been modeled musicians all the way.
Oh yeah, this is not even about the rest of the guys from the band. Like I remember a friend of mine was talking about how like, oh yeah, they couldn't resist the money that they could make, and I'm sure that's part of it. But at the same time, like that's their fucking livelihood.
Yeah.
And I know that they went through a whole process of trying to talk with Tim. Some of them weren't even talking to him, weren't even taking his calls, and the fact that they did. That's part of the reason why I'm kind of like, okay, I'll see if he's good for his word and if he does something to be a decent person again, because of that kind of like vouching for by the band, the other musicians in the band. But like I don't fault them at all for trying to make something out of this situation, not even money, but just like moving on and closure. I don't fault that. I just hope that this band, this platform that they have, gets turned into something positive.
All right. Well, you're here.
Sorry, thanks for letting me rant about that. Like I said, I got fucking feelings. I didn't realize that I had that much to say about it. But
I'm just I got a single tear and just.
Yeah, give me that slow clap gif of the guy who's just like.
Yeah, seriously.
Or the one where it's just like the little sticker on Facebook that's just like banging on the floor. Like, yeah!
Speaking of bands who haven't done shit in a long time.
Yeah, the opposite end of the spectrum. Where have you been? Where we've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Tool. Not Peter O'Toole, but Tool. God. Yeah. How long? 13
you just
years?
referenced the actor from fucking Troy?
Yes, Peter O'Toole. Yes, the long dead actor.
Who did a lot of other stuff too. But for some reason, I'm thinking Troy right now. Thanks, King Priam. Let me put pennies in his eyes. Anyway, to the topic.
13 years.
13
My
years.
Man, he missed 3 full 4-year terms of college. Just to focus on a Perfect Circle, which perfectly went nowhere with their last release.
Oh, that's and I gotta disagree. Actually, I feel like it did really well.
I hated that record.
Oh, you
so
did,
much.
but I think it did really well.
What was it? The Caged Elephants or Elephants in Cages?
Eat the Elephant.
Eat
the
enough.
elephant.
It had an elephant in it. All right, it could have been named Stampy for all we know. But it was
I mean, there was the one song from it.
Exactly, the one song.
Yeah, it's the one that like name drops like Bowie and Leia have moved on. Like that one I liked.
Yeah, because they're both dead and you felt bad.
Honestly, I did. Yes, you are correct. Good job. Well done playing my heartstrings. You played me like a damn fiddle!
That's enough from you, Lenora.
Damn it, Lenora.
But anyway,
Yes, 13 years of an absence, and now they're back with Fear Inoculum.
Man, in 5 days. From the moment of this recording.
Yes,
wow.
5 days as we count down to New Year's and the return of Maynard.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, well, for everybody else who's been dead, we'll try to celebrate it for you, I promise. Although I have been wondering to myself why I cannot regain the 10 minutes of listening to the track. I cannot get that back. I am still optimistic.
Is it me? I mean, am I the one that's waiting for this entire album to be released before I actually listen to it? Like whatever's been released so far.
Well, yeah, there's already been 2 songs.
So we had 2.
I personally have not heard them because I feel like I'm just here, just like, you know what? I really want to listen to this whole. I don't want to judge. I don't want to judge this album off of 2 songs. I really don't want to do that because that's just if I hear. Sometimes I'm like on this thing where I'm just like, first 2 songs sound like this, then this album is probably gonna sound like. It's probably going to sound like this.
Well, they said there's going to be like 7 songs on the album. So at this point, if you've listened to the 2 songs that they've played live,
you've heard a half
and
of
7 10-minute songs.
You've
heard the duration
exactly
of the record right there.
The 2 songs they played live are like 12-ish, 13 minutes long, and then Fear Inoculum is what 10:21. So
Bro,
like
that's 20 minutes right there. And
like,
then I'm just going to do
30 minutes. That's like half the album.
Hour. Yeah, and then the next 5 tracks are going to be like a hardcore record. They're going to be like 35 seconds. 121.
This fucking Tool Goes Grindcore.
Tool Goes Grindcore.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing like what the new Tool sounds like.
I totally get that. Like listening to an album in chunks is one thing, especially when it is a band like Tool. They kind of create experiences. The reason why I'm not waiting for that is because I think back to 10,000 Days. 10,000 Days for me.
You mean how long we took to get the new record?
Yeah, exactly. 10,000 Days, and this could be a hot take. So listeners, feel free to skewer me where I stand. 10,000 Days has 4 good songs on them. 3 of them are actual songs. The 4th great song on 10,000 Days is 3 other songs that you have to string together to make a complete song. Like literally, that's what it is. They had one track that's just sound effects, one track that's like a vocal something or other, and one track that's an instrumental. But if you time it all, people look it up. They call it Wings for Mary Part 3. It's out there.
Yeah, when you put all them together, you make Voltron. That's what
happens. It's like this Voltron Tool song that's actually great. But the fact of the matter is, like, you know, that is what percentage of the album? 30% of the album, something like that. And part of it you have to build yourself in a workshop.
Yeah, it's like Play-Doh.
Yeah, come on, guys. Just we get it. You're artsy. You want to challenge the listener, but there's a difference between challenging the listener and trolling the listener. So don't troll us, is what I'm saying.
Let those comments roll in. Oh boy. Oh boy.
I think there was a funny comment that I had read one time about the new Tool album where people were just like, they're like, you know, if you don't like the new Tool album, you're just not cerebral enough.
That's what Maynard said. Maynard had this whole thing. Yeah, he was like, he's like, I don't think people are gonna get this album. And I understand. Again, I understand if you want to put out a challenging piece of art, you want to make people think, but like, you don't want to make them like confused.
Well, can I actually say that I feel like you know, a band like Tool, because they're so, you know, like their experience as musicians are just phenomenal. I feel like they're a musicians band. I mean, you know, for the people that have spent God knows how long, how many years on guitar or bass or, you know, drums, or just have studied music theory, then, you know, I feel like those are the people that can truly appreciate it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of the listen that's the ear that I brought to listening to at least the first studio track, the title track, Fear Inoculum. You know, we were told to expect all these crazy time signatures and, you know, these weird shifts and atmospheres, and you know what? I got to say, it's all there. But for me personally, it kind of builds to, it's a bridge to nowhere. It builds and builds and builds and builds, and it doesn't get anywhere. But that said, I do think that a lot of people do listen to Tool for that musicianship.
They always will. I mean, it's a fact.
Yeah,
that's going to be.
And like what I kind of rail against on as far as this song is concerned, and I listened to the 2 live cuts too. So these songs.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it's not that they're bad. Tool's a great band.
They're absolutely amazing.
And they're great musicians. And so anything that they play is going to be well played.
Yeah.
It's just not well composed. And it doesn't really pay off. And that's not me saying, like, you know, every song has to have a big hooky chorus.
This is a Picasso with water paint.
You know, just by saying that, I feel like this podcast is gonna be done before it even gets launched. I mean, pitchforks and torches after this.
Yeah, sorry if you regret bringing me on here.
No. I mean, but no,
I'm also kind of hogging the mic, so I'll see if I can kind of.
Nope.
Nah, you're not really hogging the mic. I mean, we're just.
I totally see where you're coming from, though.
But this is one of the most anticipated albums of the decade. Not even the year.
No, you mean the 10,000 days we waited for it?
Well, yeah, the decade and a half at this point, the last 13 years.
Look,
and
at this point, you got to put next to Slipknot, though. Because, I mean, Slipknot also had one of their, their strong debuts in 20 years.
I mean, I was never a huge Slipknot fan, but this album made me a fucking Slipknot fan.
Fair enough.
I've been a Slipknot fan for such a long time, and it never fails because they always they do so well and they grow as a band, but they still bring back like just Easter eggs of like the old stuff.
Yeah, I noticed. So I listened to the first Slipknot album like it was like it was medicine. And I noticed that on this last one, they brought in more of these kind of like weird samples and like DJ breaks. And I was like, shit, I haven't heard that since like 2001. Way to go, guys. And it's just executed so well. But there's enough of their new face to keep us interested. Like Jay Weinberg's drumming, he brought the blast beat to Slipknot. Yeah. Joey Jordison's an incredible drummer, but I honestly think Jay Weinberg is, at least he's flashier? If that makes sense?
I don't think he's flashier. I think he has way more technique than Joey.
Yeah.
Joey's right after Joey left Slipknot, you notice his career tanked. I mean, he just fell off the planet because everybody's like, we want Joey back. It's like, you do understand you have a Weinberg behind the kit. Like, I remind you, for people who don't know what Weinberg is, if you ever watched Conan O'Brien, his band, the Max Weinberg 7, Max Weinberg is a very legendary drummer, and his son is going to follow.
Well, also a little guy named Bruce Springsteen.
Oh yeah, just a small guy.
For those our tri-state listeners, Max Weinberg of the E Street Band fathered Jay Weinberg of the S Street Band. I don't know, S
Street Band. They all wear masks and they party hardy. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we've had a solid year of really, really great records that come out, but it's so funny to me, like, talking about Slipknot. I was really excited for Rammstein.
I mean, but the Slipknot, I really feel like the Slipknot album was a really emotional one, because I actually, if I've listened to it, I'm not going to say I listened to it over and over, but I have listened to it a couple of times, and it really does, if you're going through shit, this is a good album to actually.
It's always been Slipknot, though. They always manage to find a way.
But this one in particular, because they've actually, this album, they've actually, you can hear how they've matured as a band.
Yes.
They're not everything's not just freaking I'm gonna bang my head until it bleeds.
Yeah.
Now this is more they're actually they actually pulled it back
slightly.
They're just slightly.
Right. It's not to say
not a lot, but
down, because like the last song on the album, which was one of the singles, Solway Firth, is like some of the greatest riffing that I've ever heard from Slipknot. Normally I kind of associate them with like a wall of sound, and this time they actually brought like guitar riffs.
Yeah, this actual individual, you can hear everybody's sound.
And it's relentless, it's thrashy, and so while they have matured, they haven't slowed. This is one of their most brutal outings yet, but they still bring the hooks. The chorus for Unsainted, that shit gets stuck in my head for days on end.
I think because as I'm looking at my playlist right now, because I'm not going to pretend like I know all the songs by heart.
You lie.
No, a liar, because I've actually like pinpointed the songs that actually really stuck to me when I was listening to it, was A Liar's Funeral.
Is that
was
good.
Good.
One of the slower, like one of the acoustic numbers ish, right?
I mean, there was one. Well, I think that at the 4-minute point of that song was what really got me, because usually I listen to music and I'm like, I listen to it, but then there's like one part of a song that I'm just like, I gotta replay that 30 seconds of it.
Yes, I know that feeling well.
And as much as you guys are enjoying this, you could replay back to 0, and we're gonna take a quick break. We will be right back. We need to fill up our alcohol. Be right back, people.
Here's some more beer.
And we're back. It took us an hour and a half to get all of our booze, but we kind of haven't drank it yet. We've just been at the round table discussing stuff and things, like the great Rick Grimes used to say. But speaking of stuff and things, we're going to go right into a record that we kind of slipped under our radar by this little mini band that no one really knows anymore. This band called Killswitch Engage.
Yeah, have you heard of them?
I mean that so sarcastically. With their new record, Atonement. Bo, I'm looking at you right now.
I feel your eyes on me. They're like headlights.
I think it was okay. I think it was good. I think that the message behind the music was.
That's a 6 out of 10.
It was good. It was good. It was good. It was most good, John. Most good. Just it's like Winona Ryder in Family Guy when that was most good, John. Do we have any nudity in this? All right, then we got a movie. But yeah.
Do we have any breakdowns in this? Good, then we got a record. Like that's it's your turn, Bo, because you know me.
I mean, okay, I guess I'm establishing myself as complicated feelings man, because I should preface by saying that. But also, Killswitch Engage is one of my all-time favorite bands. Like it's taken me a little while to realize this. Like for a while, I thought it was just like a nostalgia thing, kind of like I was saying with As I Lay Dying, where I got into them at like the right time in my life, and they just kind of became one of those bands. But no, like
it was
like
something unpredictable, but in the end, it's right.
In the end, it's right. Yeah, and I had the time of my life. But for real, like I got into Killswitch with End of Heartache, and that sent me down into their back catalog, and I've been following them ever since. When they went through their upheaval at the, I guess it was 2009, 2010.
For what?
When Howard left.
Oh, when Howard left?
Yeah.
That was 2011, 2012.
Gotcha. So
that's when Jesse came back and did Disarm the Descent.
Right. So
I could be wrong. It could be 2013, but it's around.
No, it was
time
the album came out in 2013, so it must have had all the shifting must have been in 2012. I legit had a dream where I was auditioning to be the singer. You can tell it was a dream because it went well. But anyway, like this whole upheaval of losing a singer, and such a powerful, strong presence like Howard Jones, one of the best voices in metal, at least in metalcore, to lose him. And for the reasons that they lost him, he had to focus on his mental health, he had to focus on his physical health, and it just wasn't working to be in that band. And then to see Jesse come back, and that album that they released was just so reinvigorated. It was a band like rediscovering itself, and it was so positive and so powerful. I love that.
Oh, well, that's why Disarm the Descent, earned a Grammy nomination.
Yeah, and that's what I think that it was that energy that made me realize, like, oh, this isn't just a band that I listen to. This is a band that I like love. This is one of my favorite bands.
They came out with a Rocky Balboa montage and won the fight. And that's what happened to this group.
For real.
Because I mean, don't get anybody wrong in the room. Howard Jones is still a phenomenal singer.
Right, and he's got his own things going.
Yeah, of course. He had Devil and then they changed that up to like The Torch. So he's on a successful path right now with his group, and he's had a majority of the classics from the Killswitch catalog. Those are his.
Mm-hmm.
I loved I loved Howard Jones era Killswitch Engage.
Yeah, that's what got me into them. And
his vocals were so powerful. I mean, just like the way they reverberated.
Yeah.
They're both very unique, but that would like.
Yeah, they don't sound like each other, which is I think what's really great about them is that it's not like they're interchangeable singers.
Mm-hmm.
But we heard that in the Signal Fire. That was the first single to come out.
That was pretty powerful because with the two of them, facing off, not facing off, but just joining together.
Which is a great callback to on End of Heartache. So that's the first one with Hojo. They did Take This Oath, which has a hook by Jesse Leach.
Yeah.
It's a little bit lower in the mix. They didn't do a video for it, so you get a little bit less of that closure. But the Signal Fire brings me to this album, which was, the first song they put out, Unleashed. I was like, oh, okay, this is good. It is definitely a song. And it wasn't it had elements that I really liked, but it wasn't quite doing it for me. And then we got I Am Broken Too, which I will say, like, you can see the band experimenting a little bit because
you mean Just Cut Me Loose 2.0?
Yeah,
let's not
that's kind of what I'm getting to. Like, the musically, like, it's executed well, and it's a composed song that has all the pieces that you want in a song. They even had a little bit of fun on the verse by putting that in 7/4 instead of 4/4 for all my music nerds out there. I think I'm counting that right. I'm not a mathematician, but it just, like, it didn't really build up anywhere. Just kind of like, it's a song.
I mean, I dare say, I recycled almost
a little bit. And I don't want to say that because you look at the background of that song and, like, what they're saying, and they put out a video for that one, and it's all about, finding help when you're at your darkest. It lists the suicide hotline, how to call and reach out to people when you're feeling the most alone, and that's what the song's about. Mm-hmm. And it's about Leach's own struggle. He has the lyric, "I see myself in you," and it's just kind of like, he's really putting himself out there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I don't want to say, like, this is a bad song.
Yeah, it's not a bad song.
It's not a great song, but it has a wonderful message.
Yeah.
And then the full album comes out. And I've been listening to that shit on repeat. And, like, sure, it's got some peaks and valleys, like any album is going to have some stuff that, you're kind of like, maybe you could trim the fat on this. But as soon as I heard the Signal Fire, that's the energy that I was looking for in this album and from this band. And to know that came out of a duet, I know that they said specifically, we don't want you guys to split into camps about who should be the singer, but it happened anyway because fans are going to fan. And you got your Hojo people, you got your Jesse people. By the way, Howard Jones, I don't know if you're listening to this. Can I call you Hojo? I don't know.
We love you, Howard.
But the fans definitely split into these camps of, like, oh, he's his better singer. Oh, they should have stuck with him.
Nah.
And to have this duet happen, and then you see them in the video, rap battle style, facing off, where there's competition.
Yeah, it was like 8 Mile.
Yeah.
I really felt like it was kind of uniting the fans that were on this side and that side, like, the Hojo fans and then the Jesse Leach fans, and that kind of just squashed it, like, guys, shut the fuck 100%. Up, all of you, shut up. We're in this together, and that's how everyone should be, and especially in metal music. Yeah. And there's not one right way of making metal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a Reese's. There's more than there's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it.
But they are easily, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most prolific and authentic bands to reach out to their fan base and just squash the beef. It's it's BS, honestly.
Like,
and like when going back to what you were saying about I Am Broken Too, Jesse really put his 110%. Like, I'm doing this song for my fans, but I want to understand you too, and I want to relate with you, and that's something that not many lyricists do, in the industry, and he really went above and beyond for that, and I respect him for it 110%.
Yeah, like, this album took a lot out of it. He had an episode during the making of the album where he was like, he kind of went off the grid, and then I remember on his social media, he was like, hey guys, I just want to let you know, I got the help that I needed, and you can too. And I was just like, man, that's raw. And I appreciate him kind of peeling back the curtain. They didn't make it all about, oh, this is my struggle and this is how I'm going to be an Instagram influencer. He was like, no, this is what I go through, and this is real, and it's real for a lot of people. Anything that is an element of your personality, if you let it get big enough, it's like the stories of, like, the dragons guarding the gold, how the people overfeed them, and then next thing you know, they get stuck in the cave. Rush Hour 2.
The red dragon.
Yeah, but anything about your personality, whether it's a gift or a flaw, if you magnify it enough, and it becomes that's the only thing that anyone knows about you, that is, you're doing yourself a disservice, regardless of what the situation is. But yeah, like, I think that this album, it's loaded with that. He's trying to be honest and he's trying to be raw, but at the same time, when I first listened to it, I wasn't sure if the music itself was working for that. But
the music itself was a disservice.
But since then, I've really come to recognize, like, this is a band that is, they've got a formula. Like, that's another 4-letter word that nobody likes to say. is that a band has a formula, but Killswitch has a formula, and they've been able to make a songwriting formula really work for them, and work for their fan base and work for their fans, like work for the people that listen to the music.
Well, they also convert. Go ahead, you were saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, that's a really good way to put it. I mean, especially like this new album. Like you said, that they have a formula, and that's what the fans are. There's a sound that Killswitch Engage has that that if it kind of just goes out of that, a lot of the fans. I mean, it's hard to describe. I guess. I mean, people. They have that hardcore, like kind of metalcore sound that people are always going to remember, and you can always pinpoint it, no matter where you hear it. It's that's a Killswitch song right there.
Right, exactly.
The first moment that you hear it start playing, so it's going out of that. Like you said, that formula. They're going to maintain it. They're always going to maintain it because that's what the fans love.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you stick to the formula, people are going to say that you're sticking to the formula. And if you don't stick to the formula, then people are going to be upset that you experimented too much.
No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I find it funny, like there's this, of course, a formula, but there's also this little thing called variety. I mean, considering you have to look at what happened to this band over the course of 8 years. Howard Jones left. Jesse came back. Jesse's formula and his methods are completely different than Howard's. Jesse earned the Grammy nomination. He also did Disarm the Descent. He also did Incarnate, and then he did Atonement. And then you look at all of Howard's records, The End of Heartache, Rose of Sharon. You look at the self-titled record, the one that nobody talks about, which is quite honestly BS in my book, because that's a great record.
There's a lot of great stuff on that album.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff on that record, or even as my personal favorite, As Daylight Dies, which is like the one record that almost everyone gravitates to, even if you are or are not a Howard Jones fan.
Because a good old My Curse.
Yeah, that's the old, there was a lot of songs on that. Even the Dio cover was on that, when they covered Holy Diver. That was it. That's what got me into it. I was like, damn, this guy could sing. I was like, this is great. Then Jesse came back, and, don't get me wrong, I like Jesse. I like his music. I just felt, with Atonement, it didn't really follow as much of a structure as I anticipated compared to Disarm the Descent or Incarnate. And I feel like, Jesse's return has been his shadow. Like, he's been trying to pass that, and he hasn't been able to do it.
I can see that. The album plays like a collection of songs. It
plays like B-sides.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I say it lightly, mainly because there's a lot of good songs on there. But, maybe it will take some time for me to grow to it. But, I mean, the Signal Fire is the only one that really gravitates to me because of the history of the band. Right.
The unity in it.
Yeah, the unity, of course. No, you're right about that. And, I mean, the song with Chuck Billy, which is amazing too.
Yes.
That I forgot the bloody name of it.
Crownless King.
There you go. Boom. That one. Those are the only two that really stick to me. And not to mention that they also switched record labels too, because they're not on Roadrunner anymore. They're on Metal Blade. So when a band switches from label to label, there's this new reimagining of them. And I think, like, for me, honestly, like going back to Unleashed, that first track off there was like, Then it went just hard in the paint, and it kept it going that way. I think that there wasn't that much of a balance of songs like the past two records. And I love the past two records. And one of my favorite songs of Jesse is Always.
Yeah, the power ballad.
Yeah, I love that song. That song, to me, like, when I think of Killswitch, Jesse, Leach era, I think of that song. I'm always going to think of that song.
Yeah, and there isn't that much experimentation like that in this, but I know, like you've said outside of what we're recording right now, that you felt like this album was like thrashy, and then it almost doesn't fit. And, like, we know Adam D's a riff monster. That guy can riff circles around people.
Absolutely.
Maybe he's overrated in stage presence. I don't know what people think. I love his stage presence, but he's. I definitely think.
If the man can order a drink at the bar while playing
a
song and drink it, he's won my respect. Champ. Like, that's it. He's a champ.
I do think that he's underrated as far as his riff writing abilities, because, and Joel too, Stretzel, because they got that magic riff sauce.
Yeah, but Joel is very overshadowed by Adam.
Well, I mean, you also think that Adam's in multiple projects. Like, you listen to, like, Serpentine Dominion, and that's Adam writing, technical melodic death metal. He's really showing his colors on that. Joel, I feel like doesn't have that second outlet, but you got to remember that the first 2 albums were just him on guitar.
That's true.
I think Adam probably lent some creative pointers here and there, but, like, those are Joel's riffs, and so we know that these are 2, like, just dripping riff man.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
And so I think that, like, this thrashiness that you're talking about, while it might be out of place with what we've heard from Killswitch before, it's not like, it's not like they just, like, went to Instagram and put the thrash filter over the band.
Yeah.
Like, it comes from a place.
The elements have been there, for the past 2 records with Jesse. They have.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, they're there. But this record is just like, well, if you think you heard thrash, there's more. Yeah. And boom, it's just nonstop.
And of course they have like a legitimate thrash royalty guesting on this with Chuck Billy. Like, so I feel like you're talking about how, like, that maybe they're kind of like fit their way into a new record label, and like Metal Blade is known for having heavier acts than Roadrunner, or at least more aggressive acts than Roadrunner. I think. So
Roadrunner has really jumped. They've really jumped ship lately. I mean, Slipknot and Volbeat are like their
and Trivium.
And Trivium. Well, yeah, Trivium really hasn't done much since the Sin in the Sentence, but
which was a year and a half ago. Hasn't done much since.
Yeah, no, Derek, I gotta disagree. It takes about a good 2.
Album of that year for sure.
I agree with the album of the year.
That album's still running its course.
Well, no, it's not running because Matt Heffy had twins, so they haven't really.
They just got back from tour.
Derek.
Back, really?
They either just came back or they're about to go again. They've been touring hard on this.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to get my head on my
yeah.
ass
Plus that album only came out a year ago, right?
A little bit low. It was 2017. It was the end of 2017.
Okay. Yeah, it takes about a good 3 years to make a really good album.
Unless
again.
you're,
I will.
Unless you're Tool. Or you got those bonkers bands that are doing like
10,000
they do an album a year.
Record, I mean, okay, so let me get my head out of my ass for that one. That was my mistake. I made boo-boo.
But at the same time, I don't know. I can't remember. Is Nickelback still on Roadrunner? Nickelback was like
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about Nickelback on this podcast.
You said the secret word.
I'm just saying, like, we're talking about like which label rather is more associated with heavier acts, and I think that Metal Blade has that covered, despite the fact that Roadrunner for a long.
Is more appropriate for this than Nickelback. Okay?
I'm just saying, like I've loved a lot of Roadrunner stuff, but I can definitely see as Killswitch migrates to Metal Blade, they're probably like, all right, we're playing with the big boys now, so we got to figure out a way to belong here.
I always thought that Roadrunner was a bigger label.
Oh, I just mean in terms of overtly aggressive metal bands.
I got you.
I totally agree. Metal Blade Records has a lot of heavy bands.
Well, yeah, and I know that like there's
Rivers of Nile who are making like a lot of headlines right now.
And like we talked about it earlier, As It Lay Dying up until recently was Metal Blade. Likewise, so was Unearth. Unearth is on Century now, but Unearth, some of the stalwarts.
And along with our beautiful, Pennsylvania people from Black Crown Initiate, they just signed to Century Media.
Century Media is a great label, man. They've got so many great bands on that label.
God forbid was on Century.
And I'm so happy because I don't know. I mean, if you remember, Bo, we had our show back in May with Black Crown Initiate headlining.
How could I forget?
Oh man, they were once signed to E1 Records, and then they had gone on hiatus.
Mm-hmm. They can share a bill.
One day you never know. The Mad Crown Initiate.
But yeah, we did have that interview with them in May, and that they didn't want to talk about it, but they were like, we don't want to say right now, but we've got a lot of good things coming up, and I was so excited to hear that because I remember seeing them back in 2016
at Gramercy,
and I was like, wow, man, these guys are nuts.
Yeah, I was not super familiar with them until that show because of my little metalcore kid bubble. Dear viewers, you listeners, you will realize eventually that I have
he was buried inside his own grave. That's what it was.
Interesting music taste sometimes. But after seeing them at that show, like I've seen handfuls of bands that are as intense as they were. They really brought it, and I'm happy that they are making moves and making waves.
Yeah, it seems like the nostalgia train is just coming back. And
but it's not like
so much booty right now.
It's not that like Frozen Leftovers nostalgia though. This
okay,
is
we're not talking about Swanson sponsored stuff right here. This is a TV dinner of metal. Okay, like that's all.
Yeah, no.
This
is that new shit. This is like that scene in Ratatouille when Remy makes the ratatouille dish, but it's like fancy now. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
okay, fair enough.
This is the classics that are coming back, but they fancy.
They fancy. Okay, I mean. For me, honestly, I love seeing, the top bands come back and whip ass, and Slipknot being one of them.
Oh,
Rammstein disappointed me this year. I did not like,
Wow.
That record. I was very disappointed by it.
Why is it?
I haven't heard all of it, but I was really fond of the singles that they put out.
Yeah, because Deutschland was like easily one of the top music videos of this year.
And you can't forget about Radio.
Yeah, Radio was great too.
Mein Radio.
Those were great. Or even Arslanda. That was a great music video too. And their cinematographic style has always been top notch. But there has been this lack of essence towards the end of the record. I've only gotten up to Diamant before I just stopped listening. And I couldn't, compared to their last record, I went ham from beginning to end. And I loved the last record they came out with. They even performed it on Jimmy Kimmel when it came out 2011. And people were hyped up for this record. And it came out, it got reviewed, and it died.
I do definitely see that it kind of slid under the radar, kind of like
that was so sad.
When you see a movie that's really hyped out and then you don't see any more trailers for it after it releases.
Yeah. It's awful. For a band to come out that strong, after an 8-year absence, and then just go under the radar, it blows my mind. Or even my personal favorite was Marilyn Manson. When Marilyn.
Well, I guess that could be said here about here in America, but I'm pretty sure over there, overseas, it's totally a different story.
Yeah, they're probably a lot stronger.
Yeah, their media, the media for them out there is probably a lot stronger than here.
Yeah.
Especially because when their record came out, actually a lot of other records were coming out on top of it.
That's true. I mean, I can see
it was kind of being overshadowed in a way.
Yeah, but still, it's Rammstein.
No, I know.
It's Deutschland. That music video was so bananas, and it got me so hyped up for the record. The record was so hyped up that all they needed was to take a picture of one match, and that was the damn front cover of the record. They did not even fucking try. They just said match. That was it. And it was done. It was amazing.
Match.
Okay, cool. I'll take it. You're Rammstein. You can do what you want.
I was talking about other things that came out this year, and no, I'm sorry because I have to bring this one up. Was Angelmaker? Yes, let's talk about Angelmaker.
The car dealership of metal.
Or how we like to call it. me and Derek like to give the nickname Baby Maker because
Baby Maker. That's it.
I
want special love to Matt Perrin and the beautiful crew at Angelmaker. You guys are epically amazing. I love you all dearly.
This album that they released, we're talking about, I think, what were we, a 14-song album.
Came out, 4 months ago?
No. They're 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go to the records. Yes.
All right, Judge Mills Lane.
And I gotta say, it opens, and this album opens up really, really soft, and it's really beautiful. Just there's acoustic work on it. Yeah.
May 31st. There we go.
Hey.
4 months ago.
Yeah. So this album is fantastic. It opens, like I said, it opens up with this acoustic sound, this acoustic music, and it's great. And then it's just ridiculous. It's really nasty. And I think one of my favorite songs on this is Bloodthirster, which is their 5th song. It's 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
This has easily been your favorite record of 2019.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear this live.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait, and I hope it's in a venue where
Yeah, Angelmaker, hurry the fuck up and come to New York.
Well, they are going on tour, but they're going to be I think they're coming. They're coming to the Paramount. The Revolution Bar
Revolution
in Long Island.
Yeah,
in the fall.
They're coming. They're not playing Paramount. They're playing Revolution.
Yeah, Revolution.
We talked about that a few days ago.
I know.
Okay.
I'm excited for this. I have not heard this. but I do have an 18-mile race coming up, which means that I'm going to need a lot of music. So I'll make sure that that's on that. Maybe
This
for
is
the
like
last
really,
stretch.
really good. Yeah, this album
Yeah.
was really good, like really heavy on drums, and it's just.
Yeah.
This is a I want to say a violent album.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
It's violent.
I agree with that one.
As,
It's
I mean,
just
what can I say about it? Violent. It's just the lyrics and
like
everything
we're-
about
we're
it is just
punting
violent.
babies. That's what we're doing. That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
the poor babies.
Yeah.
Maybe,
We're gonna-
can we retcon that and say they're like baby Thanoses or something like that? like babies who don't feel bad about punting.
What about like the Gerber baby? You know, he's probably like 65
Oh,
right now.
yeah, that kid's up to something.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, I feel worse talking about little baby Groots than actual babies. I think the little
No.
Groots are so
Baby
Yeah, exactly.
Groots. Yeah, let's not do that. No, let's not kick baby Groots. I like
So,
baby Groots.
speaking of kicking baby Groots, nothing that has anything to do with that. Derek, what are you listening to?
I am currently enjoying the new Bad Omens record.
Okay.
I
This
really.
is Find God Before He Finds You.
Yes,
Is that one?
yes.
Yeah, solid title. I love that title.
I am absolutely enjoying this record, and it's a Bad Omens. I think 4 years to come up with this record because they came out with it self-titled, kept touring nonstop, and then were just all over the freaking globe, and boom, you know. You killed me with Dethrone, you killed me with Mercy, you killed me with If I'm There. That's one of my favorite songs of 2019. I love that song so much. And, you know, it's just one of those records that I wasn't surprised about, but it just set a higher bar for this group. And I'm really proud to see their evolution as a band together. And they are playing, you know, at Webster Hall in New York City. They're playing with, again, another band that I love a little too much, Tooth Grinder. They're
Oh,
playing
nice.
with
Wow.
Tooth Grinder's coming
Tooth
out with
Grinder.
a record.
Tooth Grinder, they just dropped the new single.
Called I Am.
Yep. I was
Yeah.
listening to that earlier,
The
so
first
that-
time I had seen Tooth Grinder was when they were actually they were opening for Periphery at
what a
Irving
bill.
Plaza. Wow, that was
Yeah.
a good like 2 years ago.
2 years? No.
2 or 3 years ago.
No, this was for the Periphery 3 record.
That was at Irving Plaza.
Yeah, because Periphery only came around once for Periphery 4, and that was at PlayStation Theater. This was for Select Difficulty.
Yeah, and I remember I became a fan of Tooth Grinder because they were on stage and they had played Diamonds for Gold, which is an amazing song. And the best part about it was Spencer Sotelo from Periphery came out and sang with them on
Nice.
stage for it. So
I
that
love
was
it
awesome.
when that sort of stuff happens. Like I know that like I feel like features don't happen as often in metal as they do in like pop or hip hop or something like that.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of and there's so many like lightning in a bottle type things that have to happen. But like I want to see Killswitch tour with Light the Torch so they can do the Signal Fire. And I want to see
You know that's going to happen.
yeah, but like as an actual tour, like not
Yeah.
a one-off,
Right,
an
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actual tour,
I
so that
can't
way
see
you
that as a
Killswitch-
get
one-off.
that.
There'll be too much money to like gain from it. It'll be a tour.
It would
and
definitely be a
just
tour,
Just the
yeah.
mojo, man. It's like I will. So I
That
don't have
Light
that
the
many.
that Light the Torch album was fantastic.
great.
When
It
that
was
came
great.
out, it came out last year, and that's all I was
Yeah.
listening to all
more,
summer.
More groovy, more like hard rock oriented. But I think that they're finding their sound,
No,
and I
well-
think that the rebrand,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, helped
yeah,
with
that was unfortunate, and they had to change their name. But
Yeah,
this,
I liked the name Devil You Know. Light the Torch took a little bit to grow on me, but at the same time, I think that they had a real opportunity to like be like, okay, fine,
They
we got to do
found
this. This is who we
themselves.
are.
Yeah.
But it was even funnier when they named the record Revival, which is just like a slap
Yeah.
in the face. Like, you can't hold us down.
Yeah.
You know, and
I have very few regrets as far as like shows and such go, but I remember one year I had tickets to see Clutch and Mastodon in Central Park, and
the summer stage.
I didn't go.
Oh, you're on drugs.
I don't know why I didn't, but like the whole time I was super excited for Neil Fallon to go on stage with Mastodon and do like any of the 5 or 6 songs that he's done vocals for, and I think he did, and I missed it. So whenever those sort of opportunities come up, I really hope that people take advantage of that, because like isn't that why we listen to this
You
stuff?
sound like those people that went to the bathroom when Black Label Society went on tour with Phil Anselmo, and Phil came out to perform "I'm Broken" with
Yeah.
Zach Wilde, and everybody was like, "Oh my god!" and like, "This is never gonna happen again."
It's
You're
like-
right; it's not gonna happen again.
It's like the musical equivalent of leaving before the end of an MCU movie, like before
You missed the post-credits.
Yeah, before Nick Fury comes out.
Oh, newsflash! Zach Wilde is the Nick Fury of metal.
Yeah, he just brings all.
That's it.
Hey man, I'm putting together a special team. Is that a good Zach? I didn't quite get the jersey on that. Zach Wilde, interesting guy. New Jerseyan, Confederate waving, Miller Lite drinking. Is it Miller that he drinks? Actually, he drinks nothing now, but whatever.
Yeah, he just talks about his prostate every chance he gets.
What a weird sense of humor.
He's
I love that guy.
He's like 95 years old and he still talks about his prostate. It's like, bro, I think there are other things to worry about. Like
we're still talking about Zach Wilde, right?
Yeah.
He's like, my prostate's the only thing we should be talking about. That's what Zach Wilde would say.
He's writing a movie script.
You want to know what Corey Taylor thinks? Like, let's see what Zach Wilde has to say.
Yeah. Honestly, I love Corey, but I would listen to Zach Wilde's like random stream of consciousness form of interviews. It's like this, you got Mike Piazza, he plays baseball, and then you switch him out for one
Michael
of the
Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Yeah, he plays baseball too.
Yeah, he's like Evander Holyfield back in boxing. That's it.
Just hopping around.
How you feel about this record? Well, Michael Jackson did one 5 years ago, but that's beside the point. We still breathing, and we're still happy that Michael Jackson is alive. It's like, what? He's dead.
Speaking of dead,
that's exactly it.
I have died.
That's the freaking truth. No, okay.
All right.
Okay.
I want to share a little bit of what I've been listening to.
Yes, please do that. What are you looking forward to the most?
What I'm looking forward to. Ooh, that's different.
Now that all the heavy hitters are done.
Well, but they're not. Like that's the thing, is that heavy hitters are heavy hitters for a reason. That's because they keep on going as long as they can.
Who dare will challenge the group of 9? Find out on the next Dragon Ball Z.
Well, one thing that I'm listening to right now, which I suppose means that I'm gonna be excited for it, is so Alcest just dropped a new single called Protection. And I don't know if y'all listen to Alcest at all, but their last album, Kodama, it's post metal, it's moody, it's atmospheric, it's my sad boy stuff.
They sell out their shows when they come over here.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
The last album was very atmospheric and like really emotionally gripping. This song it's not the opposite. It's still emotionally powerful, but it's heavier, it's faster, it's got more motion to it. So I'm really interested to see what comes from that. Like what happens when you spend an entire album creating like a moody but still heavy atmosphere, and then the next album you just like fire on all cylinders. That's what I want to know. And then also, so at the end of next month, September 27th, Opeth is back. Opeth it's been a while since we've seen a new release from them. They did their Garden of the Gods performance release, which is great. But I haven't really been into them, and I am really eager to hear what comes out of this new album. From my understanding, talking to people who are bigger fans of them than I am, the couple of songs that we've seen from them, we've gotten Heart in Hand, we've gotten Dignity, and we've gotten Swedish versions of both of those songs. 4 songs for the price of 2. From what I've talked to other people who know their music more than I do, this sound that we're hearing on these new releases is kind of straddling old, tech death Opeth, and the more kind of like vintage throwback prog Opeth that we've heard recently.
Okay.
And what's great is like, because I didn't really get into Opeth a while ago. Like I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, Michael's got to growl again. Like I don't give a shit, Michael. You have one of the best voices in metal. Do whatever the fuck you want to do with it. But I'm really excited to see what the rest of the album is. It's called In Cauda Venenum, which I looked it up. It's a Latin phrase which means the poison is in the tail. And apparently it refers to scorpions, exactly. And it's the origin of
Jeopardy.
It's the origin of
the
phrase the worst is yet to come.
Right.
Because it's like you get pinched by a scorpion, and then someone will be like, oh, but the poison's still in the tail. But I think that we don't have. It's not the worst that's coming when we talk about this album. I think that this album's going to be an experience.
Well, I agree with the Opeth. I really do, but
no, that's really interesting to hear, because I mean I am very familiar with who Opeth is. Sadly, I've never seen them live. I've only heard songs here and there.
As she stares at me with envy.
I do. I think I was most envious. I think I was most envious of Opeth, of Opeth fans.
Oprah fans, you mean?
Oprah fans. when you described it as an experience, and I'm like, and then there was the picture of our friend Mark, who was in the audience, and he was smiling with almost tears in his eyes, and I was like, wow, that really is an experience.
Yeah, because Opeth played Radio City Music Hall when that photo was taken, and that's something that's rarely seen for a band, of that genre. It's like, when do you get to see Opeth at Radio City Music Hall?
Yeah.
That's like, I'm gonna go see again,
It's like going to see Dream Theater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but that's Dream Theater. Dream Theater.
But they're playing at the Beacon Theater.
Yeah, now they're playing at the Beacon.
Well, I don't know if they're playing at the Beacon, but I'm saying, like,
they did already.
It's the combination of, like, a heavy act and, like, an iconic historic venue.
Yeah.
It's like they got to show up in, like, tuxes or something like that.
And they don't. They just show up in a jeans and t-shirt. It's like any Sumerian Records band going to play.
Just on the Long Island Expressway. Like, I'll be right there.
Speaking of that,
my beard's driving.
Another thing I'm excited about. We're talking about, like, metal bands getting super classed up. I'm really curious to see how it goes. I'm kind of mad at them right now. But at the end of the day, they are still my all-time favorite band, and they're doing one of my all-time favorite things for the second time, S&M 2.
Yes,
Metallica. I foolishly signed up for the ticket notifications as if I could afford to pay for tickets and go to San Francisco and take time off work. Spoiler, I can't.
Because I will be fired.
But they're doing the simulcast in theaters, and I might look into that. But either way, I hope there's a release, because S&M is actually... I bought S&M zillion years ago because I thought it was a greatest hits. And I was like, oh, cool, Metallica has a greatest hits. I've always wanted to check out this band. And I didn't realize what it was. I didn't realize that I was going to be hearing Metallica with the symphony and just adding this extra layer of cinematic weight to all of their songs. The San Francisco, directed by the late, great Michael Kamen. I don't know or conducted, rather.
Swing!
There we go. Ooh, I don't know who's doing the conduction for this, because I'm not familiar with who's the current conductor, but I still think it's obviously still the San Francisco Symphony. I don't know what songs they're doing. I don't know what the arrangement's going to be like. Are they going to add strings to Saint Anger? We'll find out. Find out next time.
Better than Lars?
But that's something else that I'm really excited for, because it shows that even the old stalwarts, the old school, and this thing we call metal that's been around now going into its 50th year, I suppose you could say.
Ask Lemmy.
Yeah, it shows that we miss you, Lemmy. Oh, we could use you right now, Lemmy.
That was harsh. Ask Lemmy. I was like,
but we're seeing that this genre of ours that we care so much about is still kicking and still trying new things, and I think that's the most important thing about it.
There's this new thing going around called innovation, which I'm really happy about, because we have groups that are just coming up and they're applying their own style, and it's a beautiful thing, because this business can get stale easily as everybody drinks their beer while it's my time to talk.
I'm drinking water.
As you said stale, I actually finished the rest of my beer.
It's like, bitch. There's been a massive kick for this industry, and I think it's finally coming around base where we're getting the respect that we fight for. We might not have the marketing skills that top 40 Billboard, R&B, hip hop megastars have, but we're winning Grammys. We're going up there against the best. We're selling out shows, and we're doing a lot of things to innovate the sound that we have, and it's great because it's about fucking time. It's like almost like the little leagues compared to what goes on out there with top 40 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's disappointing, but when you have bands like High on Fire win a Grammy or Ghost win a Grammy, got the first satanic band 2 to win a Grammy.
What do we call them, Satan?
You know?
They definitely know how to tap into that.
Yeah,
they're
do.
They're the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina of metal, and I mean that in the best possible way.
That is
fucking love that band.
Amazing. The Sabrina of metal. That's like that meme. That meme that they had on like going around online where it's like who I really am and the kind of the music that I listen to, and it's Sabrina the Teenage Witch next to Baphomet.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, that's totally true. I mean, we get to that point where we start to see what it starts to sound like.
Yeah.
And then we start to criticize. But it's like, you know what? They won the award, so they deserve it. Or even Mastodon, because look what happened with Mastodon.
They did a good job. You know what? They brought in a lot of fans by winning that Grammy. They also brought in a lot of fans who otherwise would never know who Ghost was.
Yeah, but see, that's the blessing of the Grammy Award. That's what happens.
I mean, that's definitely what worked for me. I was not really on the Ghost train.
When Cerise came out, forget it. And they had the little
for me it was Squarehammer.
Oh yeah. Okay,
oh my God,
yeah.
the ultimate spooky rock banger.
Fair enough. All right.
But like I love what you're saying. Like you think about. Sometimes people who have been around in this genre longer will talk about, the days when metal was on top. But like really, really dig into the history and like what metal bands were on top when they're talking about like in the 80s. It was Motley Crue, it was Cinderella, it was Poison.
The hair metal shit.
You gotta ask yourself, are those the bands that we want on top? Is that all? Is this your king? That sort of thing. No, but I think now we're
Black Panther.
Yeah. Wait. How do you do it? Is this your king?
Is this your king?
I think now we're seeing,
Yes.
Maybe we're not raking in the dollars the way that those bands did in the 80s, but I do think that the bands that are getting attention and finding themselves in the limelight are doing so because the quality of the music. They have something to say. They're doing something new or something at least memorable. Maybe Ghost is a great example. Let's call it like it is. Blue Oyster Cult had a baby with ABBA, and that's fine. It's not like it's not super
queen.
It's not super innovative, but it's well done and it's interesting. So I think that's it's heartening to see. People. I can't tell you how many rock is dead, metal is dead takes I've seen from some of the respected, elder statesmen of the genre.
You mean Gene Simmons?
Yeah.
You mean what the elitists? Can we just say that?
I mean,
but it's not. They say it's dead while it's living and breathing right beside.
You also have to compare what was going on 30 years ago to now. I mean, in the 80s, we didn't have this little thing called the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
We had AOL dial-up back in 92, 93. We weren't able to steal music till 2000, 2001.
We weren't able to steal music.
And that's the sad part, because I guarantee you, this entire industry would be thriving and making money without remorse if it wasn't for, freaking Napster or any of that stuff.
Well, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. And,
I guess we'll talk about that in the next one.
And
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I just want to say, really quickly, I'm looking forward to Starset's new record, Divisions. I can't freaking wait for that record. I've been a Starset fan since the beginning.
Yeah.
I love Transmissions. I love their second record, which is escaping me right now. I don't know why. Vessels, thank you. And,
I said it's probably because of the beer.
No, I've only had two, and I'm losing my mind, but I remembered. And now Divisions is coming out on Rise. Is it Rise? No, Fearless Records. Stoked for that. They're playing Gramercy Theater in October. Cannot wait for that record to come out. And now, Marissa, you're the last one with your favorite record that you're looking forward to.
Oh, that I'm looking forward to. Wow. I mean, I was really just talking about Angelmaker. That's like the thing that I've been listening to.
And that's all the time we have.
But what I'm, I'm gonna have to get back to you on the next one because I really have to think about that one.
Okay, so she owes us 2 answers, and on that note, we're gonna leave you with the answers. Leave some questions, comments, and maybe some topic recommendations down in the comments below on YouTube, and also on Spotify. We're here to listen, just as long as you talk. I'm Derek Soto. Bo Méndez is on my right. Marissa Ann to my left. We are the Trilogy of Terror. We're cruel, evil people, but we love you all. And we will see you or hear from you another time in this vocal version of Bloodlines called Bloodcast.
And don't forget to drink your nightly dose of Lagunitas beer.
Yes, drink your Lagunitas beer. It keeps the doctor away. Goodbye.
Little something.